I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Skynet. This is K5KTX. My name is Kelley, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. Net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. Net is about 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts, and we may or may not get to all of them depending on time. We'll start with general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, such as where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, what can you see in the sky tonight, a featured constellation or object or topic, recent astronomical discoveries, space exploration and space history, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and a 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Let's start with round one, which will be low power and or short time check-ins. If you are low power and or short time, please come now with your call sign, slowly and phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Alpha, Bravo Alpha, Andre in Dallas, low power.
Tango Mike, Tony, low power portable in Dallas.
5 Papa, Mike, low power, Richardson.
Okay, so let me start with that group. The first person I have is N5ABA, and I'm sorry I missed your name. Can you come back, please, with your name? All right, thanks, Andre. And I have NT5TM Tony and KG5P Mike. Do we have any other low power and or short time check-ins? Please come now. Call sign slowly and phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from. All right, let's move on to general check-ins. If you would like to check in and you're on RF, we'll get to Echolink in just a little bit, but general check-ins, please come now, same request. Call sign slowly and phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from.
This is November 5, Bravo, Bill in Irving.
Kilo Echo 5, India, Charlie, X-Ray, Tom, Louisville.
Yes. Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto. Kilo Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville.
Alpha Charlie 5, Delta Lima, Dave, Louisville.
This is November 5, Oscar India, William and Alan.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay and Mesquite.
Bravo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Coppell, Texas.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Delta India Mike, Tyler in Denton.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Vector, Juliet Papa, Robert and Richardson. Is Kilo Charlie 5, Yankee, November, Mike, Dallas.
All right, let me go with that group to begin with. That was a good, healthy check-in. I have N5BB Bill, KE5 ICX Tom, WB5 OZL Brenda, and then the next person you got stepped on a little bit, so I missed your call sign and your name. The last part of your call sign was MAX. If you could come back with your full call sign and your name and where you're transmitting from.
Charlie 5, Mike Alpha X-Ray, Max in Dallas.
Hi, thank you for that, Max. KC5MAX. Next was KC5OZT, Carolyn. AC5DL, Dave. I have N5WOI, William. N5OF, Clay. K5JDW, John. KG5DIM, Tyler. KF5ZBL, Bill. W5EBB, David. KG5APL, Patrick. KG5VJP, Robert. And KC5YYN, Mike. Do we have any other general check-ins before I move to Echolink? General check-ins, call signs slowly and phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
So, Trust 5, Julius Alpha, Chaz, Libby, no power.
All right, I got KF5JHA, Chaz, in Mesquite, low power. Let's go on to Echolink. If you are on Echolink and are able to transmit, please come now with your call sign slowly and phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from, or if you want to just jot a note in the chat box, and I'll get you that way as well. Go ahead, Echolink check-in.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Hotel Bravo, Brent, Clay County, Henrietta, Texas. Thanks for picking it back up. Back to net, 73.
This is Kilo Delta 5, Mike Juliet Victor, Mark, transmitting from Murdy.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy, and Sherman.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zoo Whiskey, and Jay near Weatherford.
I think that's almost everybody. We'll go ahead and get this group. I have KF5THB, Brent, up in Henrietta. KG5MJB, Mark. Boy, I can't read my own handwriting. KF5PDS, Billy, and KG5BZWJ over near Weatherford. All right, one more round of check-ins for this start of the net here, and then we'll move on. So anyone else, any mode, who wants to check into the net, please come now with your call sign slowly and phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from. All right, and I see KB5RHE Brian over on Echolink in Fort Worth, checking in on the in the chat window over there. I got you down. All right, let's go ahead and move on. We'll have other opportunities to check in just a little bit, but we're going to start with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space. There's 2 licensed hams. Please come now with your call sign.
Go 5, Tango Mike.
Go ahead, Tony.
Hey, of course, my biggest announcement is that the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Field Day, as well as the whole field day across the country, is coming up this coming weekend. We do have more details about our field day at W5FC.org. In addition to the big field day, we do still have a full complement of nets coming up this week. that includes the Afterglow movie tonight at 10:30, a meeting on the air tomorrow right here at 7, ham fixins Monday at 7, and all the usual nets are taking place on field days. We'll have a special extra long traffic net starting at 6, not 6:30, a TechNet at 7, a Skynet at 9, and an Afterglow movie in person at 10:30 p.m. up at the Flagpole Hill Field Day site. So yes, Field Day is coming up, but all the usual nets will be taking place as well. I hope to hear you on the air, NP5TM.
Thank you for that, Tony, and I can't believe it's already time for our Field Day, but looking forward to that. Should be a lot of fun. Let's move on to some additional announcements, starting with radio or amateur radio satellite. So the AMSAT group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. The first one is on Tuesday evenings at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. You will need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. AMSAT net is every Wednesday evening at 9 o'clock p.m. on the Arlington repeater at 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 positive offset. As Tony mentioned, we do have nets every night of the week, and you can get all of the information on those nets at the website at W5FC.org. Let's see, Tom, KE5ICX, would you like to tell us about tonight's Afterglow movie?
Yes, I lived for this. So, for tonight's Afterglow info, this is what we have. Fox Mulder called Agent Scully on his government-issued flip phone. Scully answered, "What do you want, Mulder?" "I hear Agent Nivens and his son Sam are being sent to investigate alien parasites capable of taking over the minds of human beings. They say these creatures could take over the world. We were kicked off the case because it didn't properly document last week's expense report." If free time, what do you want to do this week? Expose deep government conspiracies? Hunt errant freestyle aliens liquidating local farmers for fun? Clip UFO articles from the National Enquirer, circle the important stuff in red pencil, and then wallpaper your basement office with said articles? Nah. I want to see if the Nivens can get their alien and that expense report past Assistant Director Skinner. I'll bet they don't. So join us for the next Afterglow movie, The Puppet Masters, from 1994, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Seeing the movie isn't required and may actually be beneficial. This is KE5ICX, back to net control.
Tom, I always look forward to your descriptions of the movies. You can keep up with all of the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, which again is W5FC.org. I did want to real quickly mention that if you were on the net last week and I had an interview of Dr. Steve Towns from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, he did send me a message back to let me know that he really enjoyed being on the net, and just wanted to let all of you know that. So I was very happy to see everybody that came and joined, and it was a lot of fun. All right, do we have any additional check-ins? We move on to the next section. If so, please come now with your call sign slowly and phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Mark, Dallas.
I heard Mark in Dallas, but I did not hear any part of your call sign. Could you come back with your call sign again? got you this time. I thought that it might be you, but wasn't sure. This is your KG5 JPN. Welcome to the net. Now we're going to move on to the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. And starting off, we'll tell you about the monthly meetings. And we have a really good one coming up. The Texas Astronomical Society monthly meetings are held on the fourth Friday of every month, except for November, which is the third Friday because of Thanksgiving, and we usually don't have a meeting during the month of December. The meetings are held at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson. The meeting begins at 7:30 p.m. in the Science Learning Center building, which is SLC, Sierra Lima Charlie, on the campus map. The best place to park is in Lot H, where we've been given permission to park in orange, gold, or green spaces between 6:30 and 10:30 p.m. on that Friday evening. You can park anywhere else as long as you choose a green painted space. Otherwise, you risk getting a ticket. The meeting includes programs presented by members or guest speakers and a slideshow of the current constellation of the month. Means that our next meeting is coming up this next Friday, which will be June the 22nd. Starts at 7:30 p.m. and I'm really excited about our speaker. Her name is Pranvera Haisini. She's a young lady from the Republic of Kosovo, and I've heard her speak a couple of times and have met her in person, and she's wonderful to hear speak. And she is the founder and director of the Astronomy Outreach of Kosovo, which is the largest nonprofit astronomy outreach program in the Republic of Kosovo, now in its first decade of independence after many years of political unrest and armed conflict. In her role, Pran provides invaluable telescope training to educators, STEAM resources to local schools, and more. In fact, Pran has made such an impact with her informal education and public outreach endeavors that she was approached by the Ministry of Education of Kosovo to develop formal astronomical education programming for the public school system and is routinely asked to represent Kosovo at countless science conferences. Pran also recently had an asteroid named after her by the International Astronomical Union. An icon of social media, Pran and her organization have received several recognition awards. She was selected as one of the 24 winners in the world for the Mars Generation 24 Under 24 Leaders and Innovators in STEAM and Space. She's been a guest speaker at the 2017 and the 2018 Texas Star Party, the Northeast Astronomy Forum, and several other astronomy venues here in the United States. So I'm very excited that she's going to be here, and I hope there will be a big crowd at the UTD next week to hear her speak. For this month, we're going to have a beginning astronomy class, which will begin at 7 o'clock p.m., same location. And the topic this month is shoestring astronomy, homemade astronomical instruments, and accessories. So if you like to tinker around and make things yourself, this will probably be an interesting session for you to attend. And that begins at 7 o'clock before the regular meeting. Astronomical Society also hosts observing parties every Saturday night beginning at sunset and concluding around 10 o'clock or so, probably a lot later tonight because the sun didn't go down until almost 9 o'clock. Each week is a different location for observing, so make sure you get the complete details for the Saturday night you wish to attend. You can go to texasastro.org, click on the calendar link at the top, and get all the details for any. All of our events, by the way, are free and open to the public and very family-friendly. Tonight, the Star Party is at the J.W. Williams Park in Cedar Hill, and I do know that that Star Party was a go for tonight. So if you're in that area, it's not too late to head out, and it's a very nice location down there in Cedar Hill. All right, let's move on to National Space Society events. So, Bill, N5BB, what do you have for us tonight?
This is N5BB. Well, due to an out-of-town visitor and HAMCOM, I did not go to the National Space Society June meeting, which was last Sunday. But there's some items which I don't believe I've commented on from the last local chapter newsletter. One of them is NASA is sending a robot helicopter to Mars. So it will be in the Mars 2020 rover, which is planned to launch in 2 years. And the Mars helicopter is an autonomous spacecraft with a meter-long rotor and a body the size of a chihuahua. It's a test bed to see if a rotorcraft can fly on Mars. This is very difficult. The Mars atmosphere is so thin that hovering 10 feet above the surface of Mars is equivalent to soaring at an altitude of 100,000 feet on Earth. The current record for a helicopter on Earth is 40,000 feet. So it's a very difficult job because the atmosphere is very thin on Mars. They had to make it as light as possible and as strong as possible with these very light, thin materials. The Mars helicopter will be equipped with solar cells to charge its lithium batteries and an internal heating mechanism to keep it warm through the Martian night when temperatures can plummet to minus 100. It's minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And so the Mars 2020 spacecraft is currently planned to touch down on Mars in February 2021. And the rover is supposed to deposit the helicopter and then retreat to a safe distance before the helicopter takes off, just in case. The first test flight, the helicopter should climb 10 feet above Mars and hover for 30 seconds before turning to the ground. If all goes according to plan, the helicopter will make 4 more flights over the course of a 30-day test campaign. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Another thing is the National Space Society North Texas section here, which meets in Irving, on the second Saturday, the second Sunday of every month at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 in Irving. So the National Space Society of North Texas won an award for our chapter at the big space convention, the International Space Development Convention in late May. That's all I got tonight. And by the way, one more item I know we forgot. National Space Society of North Texas is participating for Asteroid Day at an event at the Perot Museum in downtown Dallas 2 weeks from today, on Saturday, June the 30th, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Participating at the Perot Museum is only allowed if you pass a background check. So, National Space Society members who are interested have to get the background check done through the Perot Museum, which is very easy. That's all the news I have, Kelley, in 5BB.
Oh, and thank you for the information about the Mars 2020 rover as well as the helicopter. While I was at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory last weekend, I got to work in the display area where there was a full-size mock-up of the helicopter. I also got to work side by side with a lot of the engineers that are working on this rover, and I learned a lot and got to show off a 3D printed model of the mast, the SuperCam mast for the rover, and a full-scale mock-up of the Curiosity rover. So it was a lot of I highly recommend that if you're ever get out to Pasadena, California in the early part of June to attend the annual open house there. It was just an amazing weekend. the last few months, I've been doing a series about some of the missions that have been built and managed by the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and so tonight we're going to continue with that, starting with a spacecraft that went out to Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is one of the most compelling destinations in the sky. Not only is it the largest planet in the Sun's family, it also presides over a miniature solar system of 53 known, with many additional moons to be confirmed and named. A system of rings and an immense and powerful magnetic field. These moons run the gamut from icy Ganymedes, larger than the planet Mercury, to scorching Io, constantly erupting with the solar system's most active volcanoes. Europa, with its underground ocean of liquid water, has risen to one of the top slots on the list of places to search for potential extraterrestrial life. 4 spacecraft, Pioneer 10 and 11, then 1 and 2, had previously flown by the Jupiter system, but the Galileo mission would be the first to enter and orbit around the planet. Like the famed astronomer for which it was named, Galileo would study the king of planets over an extended period in finer detail than was ever possible before. To accomplish this, the Galileo orbiter carried 10 science instruments along with a descent probe that it released directly into Jupiter's atmosphere. Propulsion Laboratory managed the Galileo mission for NASA. It built and tested the spacecraft in Pasadena, California. NASA's Ames Research Center in Mountain View, California managed the atmospheric descent probe, which was built by Hughes Aircraft Company. The German government supplied the propulsion module. The spacecraft's electrical power came from radioisotope thermoelectric generators, which were designed and built by General Electric for the U.S. Department of Energy. Like most planetary missions, which ride to space aboard an expendable rocket, Galileo set sail for Jupiter from the cargo bay of Space Shuttle Atlantis. Shuttle mission STS-34 lifted off from Kennedy Space Center's Pad 39B on October the 18th, 1989. The crew included Donald Williams, commander, Michael McCauley, pilot, Franklin Chang Diaz, Mission Specialist 1, Shannon Lucid, Mission Specialist 2, and Ellen Baker, Mission Specialist 3. The shuttle crew released Galileo into space above Earth the same day, with astronaut Shannon Lucid performing the delicate maneuvers. Then, the 2-stage inertial upper stage rocket ignited to propel the spacecraft on its journey. Some scientific instruments on the Galileo spacecraft observed from a distance, while others measured fields and particles directly. The Galileo atmospheric descent probe was dropped directly into Jupiter's cloud top to collect data about the atmosphere. At launch, the orbiter weighed 2.5 tons and measured 17 feet from the top of the low-gain antenna to the bottom of the probe. There were 10 scientific instruments aboard the spacecraft. Some of the instruments were mounted on long arms so they didn't pick up unwanted signals from the spacecraft. The probe used 6 instruments plus its radio to investigate Jupiter's atmosphere. In addition, scientists used Galileo's radio system for experiments. The orbiter featured an innovative dual-spin design. Most spacecraft are stabilized in flight either by spinning around a major axis or by maintaining a fixed orientation in space, reference to the Sun and another star. As the first dual-spin planetary spacecraft, Galileo combined these techniques. A spinning section rotated at about 3 rotations per minute, and a despun section was counter-rotated to provide a fixed orientation for cameras and other remote sensors. A star scanner on the spinning side determined orientation and spin rate. Gyroscopes on the despun side provided the basis for measuring turns and pointing instruments. Power supply, propulsion module, and most of the computers and control electronics were mounted on the spinning section. The spinning section also carried instruments to study magnetic fields and charged particles. These instruments included magnetometer sensors mounted on a 36-foot boom to minimize interference from the spacecraft's electronics, a plasma instrument to detect low-energy charged particles, and a plasma wave detector to study electromagnetic waves generated by the particles. There was also a high-energy particle detector and a detector of cosmic and Jovian dust, an extreme ultraviolet detector associated with the ultraviolet spectrometer, and a heavy ion counter to assess potentially hazardous charged particle environments the spacecraft flew through. Galileo's D-spun section carried instruments that needed to be held steady. These instruments included the camera system, the near-infrared mapping spectrometer to make multi-spectral images for atmosphere and surface chemical analysis, the ultraviolet spectrometer to study gases, and the photopolarimeter radiometer to measure radiant and reflected energy. The camera system obtained images of Jupiter's satellites at resolutions from 20 to 1,000 times better than the best possible from NASA's Voyager spacecraft. Its CCD sensor was much more sensitive than previous spacecraft cameras and was able to detect a broader color band. Galileo's D-spun section also carried a dish antenna that picked up the descent probe signal during its fall into Jupiter's atmosphere. Propulsion module consisted of 12 2.25-pound force thrusters and a single 90-pound force engine, which used monomethylhydrazine fuel and nitrogen tetroxide oxidizer. The propulsion system was developed and built by the Messerschmitt Volkswagen MBB and provided by the Federal Republic of Germany as NASA's major international partner on Galileo. Radio signals take more than 1 hour to travel from Earth to Jupiter and back. The Galileo spacecraft was designed to operate from computer instructions sent to it in advance and stored in spacecraft memory. A single master sequence of commands could cover a period ranging from weeks to months of quiet operations between flybys of Jupiter's moons. During busy encounter operations, one sequence of commands covered only about a week. These sequences operated through flight software installed in the spacecraft computers with built-in automatic fault protection software designed to put Galileo in a safe state in case of computer glitches or other unforeseen circumstances. Electrical power was provided by two radioisotope thermoelectric generators. Heat produced by natural radioactive decay of plutonium was converted to electricity, 570 watts at launch, 485 at the end of the mission, to operate the orbiter spacecraft's equipment. This is the same type of power source used on other NASA missions, including Viking to Mars, Voyager and Pioneer to the outer planets, Ulysses to study the Sun, and Cassini to Saturn. Galileo's descent probe had a mass of 750 pounds and included a deceleration module to slow and protect the descent module. The probe measured about 50 inches in diameter. Inside the heat shields, the scientific instruments were protected from ferocious heat during entry. The probe had to withstand extreme heat and pressure on its high-speed journey at 106,000 miles per hour. The acceleration module consisted of an aeroshell and an aft cover designed to block heat generated by friction during atmospheric entry. Inside the aeroshells were the descent module and its 8-foot parachute. The descent module carried a radio transmitter and 7 scientific instruments. These were devices to measure temperature, pressure, and deceleration, atmospheric composition, particles, and light and radio emissions from lightning and energetic particles in Jupiter's radiation belt. Galileo didn't have enough fuel to fly directly to Jupiter, but the spacecraft borrowed energy from Venus and Earth to make the long trip. Mission planners designed a flight path nicknamed Vega, Venus, Earth, Earth, Gravity Assist. Galileo would slingshot once by Venus and twice by Earth, gathering enough momentum to reach distant Jupiter. First stop, Venus. The Venus flyby occurred on February the 10th, 1990 at an altitude of 10,000 miles. The Galileo team tried out the spacecraft's instruments and study of the thick, toxic clouds and that cloak our sister planet. Flying by our home planet twice, Galileo saw the Earth and Moon together as someone from another world might view us. The first Earth flyby took place on December the 8th, 1990, at an altitude of 597 miles, and the second Earth flyby happened exactly 2 years later on December 8th, 1992, at an altitude of 188 miles. For the first Earth flyby, Galileo's umbrella-shaped high-gain antenna did not open as planned, but the Galileo team worked to reprogram the spacecraft to send back data through a smaller antenna. Engineers at NASA's Deep Space Network upgraded their antennas as well. The results allowed scientists to capture almost all the information originally planned. On Galileo's first trip through the asteroid belt, the spacecraft took detailed images of an asteroid named Gaspra, the first close approach to an asteroid. This flyby occurred on October 29, 1991, at a distance of 1,000 miles. On a second pass through the asteroid belt, Galileo discovered a miniature moon orbiting asteroid Ida on August 28, 1993, from a distance of 1,400 miles. This tiny body was named Dactyl. In July 1994, Galileo was perfectly positioned to watch the fragments of the comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 crash into Jupiter. The spacecraft made the only direct observations of the impact. Earth-based telescopes had to wait to see the impact sites as they rotated into view. Craft and probe traveled as one for almost 6 years. On July 12, 1995, the probe was released to begin a solo flight into Jupiter. 5 months later, the probe sliced into Jupiter's atmosphere at 106,000 miles per hour. It slowed, released its parachute, and dropped its heat shields. As the probe descended through 95 miles of the top layers of the atmosphere, it collected 58 minutes of data on the local weather. The data were sent to the spacecraft overhead, then transmitted back to Earth. It appeared that Jupiter's atmosphere is drier than had been previously thought. Measurements from the probe showed few clouds and lightning only in the distance. It was only later that we discovered that the probe had entered an area called a hotspot. Towards the end of the 58-minute descent, the probe measured winds of 450 miles per hour, stronger than anything on Earth. The probe was finally melted and vaporized by the intense heat of the atmosphere. To orbit around Jupiter, the spacecraft had to use its main engine. An error could send Galileo sailing past the planet. There was just one chance to get it right. After hours of anxious waiting, mission controllers confirmed that the spacecraft was safely in orbit. Galileo was alive and had begun its primary mission. The maneuver was precisely carried out, and Galileo entered orbit around Jupiter on December the 7th, 1995. Here's just a few of the stats on the Galileo mission. There were approximately 800 people who worked on some portion of the Galileo mission. The total cost was around $1.39 billion, with an international contribution estimated at an additional $110 million. There were more than 100 scientists from the U.S., Great Britain, Germany, France, Canada, Sweden, all carried out Galileo's experiments. The total distance traveled from launch to impact was about 2.8 billion miles, and it made a total of 34 orbits around Jupiter and a number of flybys of Io, Callisto, Ganymede, Europa, and Almathea. And it's the end of part 1, so next week I'll talk about all the science accomplishments of Galileo. Okay, so before we move on to the next segment, do we have any additional check-ins for tonight's net? If please come now with your call sign, slowly, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Whiskey Bravo number 4. Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Low Power, Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Echo, India Uniform, David,
St. Paul, Texas.
All right, I heard WV4 MFI Ted and KG5 EIU David. Welcome to the net this evening. We're going to go ahead and move on to what can you see in the sky over the next couple of weeks. So Tom, KE5 ICX, what do you have for us this evening?
Kelley, and thanks for a great report on Galileo. I really enjoyed that. This is KE5 ICX. This comes from earthsky.org. You can go there anytime. Do the / tonight on the URL, and you can see what's going on over the next few days, and you'll get all the charts and everything that I'm displaying tonight over on the video feed, as well as go to w5fc.org, and you'll find the links there as well. The first one is west 50 minutes after sunset. They have the following to say. After sunset, these next several evenings, June 14th, 15th, and 16th of this year, watch for the young waxing crescent moon to swing by Earth's two inferior planets. That's Mercury and Venus. On all of these evenings, it will be easy to see Venus shortly after sundown. After all, Venus is the brightest planet and the second brightest celestial object in the night sky after the moon. It will take more than a heroic effort to spot Mercury beneath Venus. As for the moon, it'll be tough to see, but possible on June 14th. And on the 15th and 16th, the moon will be easy to see. All in all, we're due for some very beautiful scenes in the evening twilight. Watch all 3 evenings and get a sense for the moon's movement in orbit around the Earth. Especially if you want to see Mercury, the young, pale, whisker-thin crescent moon on June 14th, find the unobstructed horizon in the direction of sunset, and you'll need binoculars to spot the moon and or Mercury in the glare of evening twilight. The setting time for the Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Venus varies around the world. On June 14th, at middle North American latitudes, the Moon and Mercury set close to an hour after sunset, and Venus about 2.5 hours after sundown. After June 14th, each following evening, the moon will appear as a wider crescent that will be higher up at sunset and stay out longer after dark. Try also to view the Earth shine softly, illuminating the night or dark nighttime side of the moon with either your unaided eye or binoculars. Earth's shine is twice reflected sunlight, with our planet Earth reflecting sunlight to the moon, and the moon, in turn, reflecting sunlight back to Earth. And they provide an example of that. And you've seen it before. It's quite fascinating. You can see a full moon that's darkened in blue, and then the crescent of the moon, which is actually the primary sunlight. You know how the late afternoon sun sinks downward in the western sky? Celestial objects seen after dark can also be seen to sink downward to that western horizon as the evening deepens. This apparent westward movement of the celestial bodies, the sun, moon, planets, or stars, is really a reflection of the Earth spinning on its rotational axis from west to east. Earth's spin makes it appear as if these celestial bodies are moving westward while the Earth remains still. We can't feel Earth spin, but as these sky bodies testify, we know it's there. While if you watch on several evenings at just the same time, you'll note that the moon's movement upward from the western horizon. Each evening, the moon will be further east on the sky's dome than it was the day before. This eastward shift of the moon on our sky's dome is a reflection of the moon's eastward motion in orbit around the Earth. So watch the great drama of the sky motions unfold in the west at dusk as the moon sweeps up by 2 planets, Mercury and Venus, in mid-June of 2018. From the U.S. Naval Observatory this week, they say the following. Some of this has already happened, but it gives you kind of the apparent motions of the planets and stars in space. Here it goes. This is what they say. The moon greets early risers this week, waning through her crescent phases as she begins to climb northward on the ecliptic through the rising constellations of autumn. New moon occurs on June 13th at 3:43 Eastern Time. Luna is a lonely traveler this week, passing near no bright objects during the course of her journey. Despite their short durations, nights in June can often be quite pleasant for sky watching, and they can also be quite clear. This offers us a chance to enjoy transparent nights that are generally free from haze and humidity that will inevitably descend on us in July and August. This clarity in the absence of the moon makes it a good week to make some observations for the Globe at Night Citizen Science Project, the PSO. Oh, PSA. So this program are twofold. On the one hand, it's an attempt to quantify the visibility of celestial objects from a variety of viewing locations, while the other, it's a chance to bring more people to the sphere of amateur astronomy. This month is the featured constellation of Hercules, which can be found in an area between the bright stars of Arcturus and Vega. Hercules has no bright stars brighter than second magnitude, so it can be a challenge to observe from densely lit urban areas. It's the most prominent feature in the quadrilateral, I'll get it right, quadrilateral lateral asterism that's commonly known as the Keystone, which lies about a third of the distance from Vega to Arcturus. I can just see this group from my urban backyard, but the further I move from the city, the more stars that outline the rest of Hercules, which stand out. It's actually quite a large constellation when seen from a good rural location, and with a little imagination, you might be able to trace out something that looks vaguely human, albeit he seems to be standing on his head. Whether you see a classical Greek hero or not, the number of stars that you can see are what's important. So report to the Globe at Night Project via their website. You can look that one up by Googling it. Hercules' lax and bright stars is made up for the presence of two superb deep sky objects, the globular clusters of the Messier 13, one of my favorites, and Messier 92. These knotted balls of hundreds of thousands of stars can be seen as fuzzy blobs of light with binoculars under dark skies. A modest telescope of 4 inches aperture will resolve them into countless pinpoints surrounding luminous cores, and larger telescopes reveal more and more details in these wonderful objects. Messier 13 is the finest of its type in the northern sky, and Messier 92 would be a showpiece object if it weren't located so close to M13 in the sky. There are about 150 globular clusters in the Milky Way galactic system. They're made up of very old stars and may be the cores of primordial dwarf galaxies that were consumed by our much larger galactic hull. This is KE5 ICX. They follow long, looping orbits around the Milky Way center, which is why we see them predominantly in the summer sky. Their cores are densely packed with stars, which occasionally lead to stellar collisions. Such events produce a very unusual type of star known as a blue straggler. On to the planets. Closer to home, we find the dazzling planet Venus dominating the western twilight and early evening sky. Her eastward motion will take her past the twins Gemini, Castor, and Pollux over the course of the week. She forms a straight line with the stars on the evening of the 10th. By the week's end, Venus begins to cross the faint constellation of Cancer the Crab. Jupiter appears high in the southeast as evening twilight fades and offers owners of small telescopes many hours of enjoyable viewing. You don't need a large telescope to get something out of looking at a giant planet, since her 4 bright Galilean moons are visible with a simple spotting scope. There will be an unusual configuration of the moons on the 7th from 11:10 Eastern Daylight to 12:20. Well, that happened. Io will then emerge from the planet shadows at 12:20, and at 12:56, Ganymede will pop out of the shadow well to the east of the planet. So maybe you got to see that. I don't know. Hope you did. Saturn joins the planet parade in the evening hours, climbing to the southeastern sky after 10 p.m. His yellow hue may be found just above the top of the teapot asteroid of Sagittarius. Mars is still best seen in the morning twilight. The red planet crosses the meridian south at around 5 a.m. along with the faint stars of the constellation Capricornus. Mars is steadily increasing in brightness, and its telescopic disk is now becoming easier to define in modest telescopes. Early morning skies tend to be very steady for planetary viewing, so if you're up early, give them a look with the telescope. And that's it from my report, or actually reading the reports from the U.S. Naval Observatory and from earthsky.org. Back to you, Miss Kelley. This is KE5I6.
Tom, and we do have a couple of conjunctions or oppositions coming up. Saturn will be at opposition next weekend, so it'll be the best time to look at that. So during field day, and then in July, towards the end of July, I think it's July 27th, we'll have a opposition for Mars, and it will be the brightest and that it's been since 2003. And no, don't get your hoax emails going. It won't be as bright as the full moon, but it will be a really great object to look in the sky. All right, let's move on to our featured constellation or object or topic, and that is going to be the Constellation Draco, the Dragon. So, Carolyn, KC5OZT, I'm going to pass it over to you. Just as a reminder, you can go over to W5FC.org and look at the sky maps and images as Carolyn is giving her information about the constellation. So, Carolyn, I give the net to you, K5KTX.
Thank you, Kelley. And Draco the Dragon is something called a circumpolar constellation. It never sets below the horizon for many observers in the northern hemisphere. It's the 8th largest constellation, and it has one meteor shower associated with it, the Draconid. In myth, Draco represents the dragon that guarded the golden apples in the gardens of the Hesperides. This golden apple tree was a present to Hera, the goddess, when she married Zeus, and she asked Atlas's daughters, the Hesperides, to guard it. And she also placed the dragon around the tree so the Hesperides would not pick any apples from it. And speaking of Hercules, as one of his labors, he was asked to steal some golden apples from this tree. So he killed the dragon, took the apples. Saddened by the dragon's death, Hera placed its image in the sky among the constellations. And it's usually depicted caught on the North Pole with 1 foot of Hercules on its head. And there are a few interesting stars. We have Gamma, the brightest star, at magnitude 2.36. It's sometimes known as the zenith star because it lies close to the zenith point. That's directly overhead, and it does that in London. It is pretty easy to find. It lies just northwest of Vega in Lyra. And in about 1.5 million years, the star will pass within 28 light years of Earth and be the brightest star in the sky. Almost as bright as Sirius is today. And then the next star, Alpha, also known as Thuban, that's Thuban. It's pretty inconspicuous at magnitude 3.6, but it was the North Star from 3942 to 1793 BC. You can find it by following not the pointers of the Big Dipper, but the 2 inner stars. of the bowl, Gamma and Delta, and they point to Thuban. It's a double star, and the main star has a companion, either a red or white dwarf. And we have a nice little K-class giant, Omicron, magnitude 4.62, and it's mainly notable for being the North Pole star of the planet Mercury. And we have Mu Draconis, also known as Arrakis. It's another double star, 2 class F stars, and a combined magnitude of 4.9. If you don't recognize the name, science fiction fans will. They'll recognize it by its traditional name, Arrakis, from the Dune series. And its name is actually the Arabic word which means the dancer. I have no earthly reason. I have no earthly reason why, but that's its name. Right, moving on to some deep sky objects, it's got some fascinating ones. And the first one we'll look at is NGC 6543, known as the Cat's Eye Nebula. This nebula lies 3,000 light years away, and it's a planetary nebula at magnitude 9.8, which, represent a brief phase in the life of a sun-like star. This nebula's dying central star may have produced the simple outer pattern of dusty shells by shrugging off outer layers in a series of convulsions. It's one of the most complex nebula discovered, and they think it was formed only about 1,000 years ago. And, because the structure of the nebula is so complex, they suspect the central star is a binary star. It was discovered by William Herschel and was the first planetary to be observed with a spectroscope. And our second object is the M102, the Spindle Galaxy. It's a spiral or lenticular galaxy at magnitude 10.7. It's located near NGC 5879, we'll discuss later. And it's notable for its extended disk of gut dust, that's hard to say. And it's seen exactly edge on. The disk might contain a ring-like structure, but the galaxy might also be a spiral galaxy, in which case the dust disk would not be unusual. That picture structure, a subtle reddish bulge surrounding a bright nucleus, a blue disk of stars running parallel to the dust lane. And our next object is actually a galaxy cluster, Abell 2218, and it contains thousands of galaxies and a mass equal to 10,000 galaxies. It was used as a gravitational lens to find the most distant known object in the universe, a 13-billion-year-old galaxy that's seen from Earth as it appeared only 750 million years after the Big Bang. And as you know, gravitational lensing means the gravity bends the light around the massive object, and the rays of light coming from the background galaxy get bent. And that way you can see them. And this allows astronomers to study objects even more distant than the cluster. Number 4 is a cute little galaxy called the Tadpole Galaxy. It's a disrupted barred spiral galaxy, and it's faint, magnitude 14.4. But they believe it to be the result of gravitational action with a smaller, more compact galaxy, which drew out the stars, dust, and gas out of the main body of the tadpole. And they think the smaller galaxy is behind the tadpole, can actually be seen shining through the tadpole's disk. They think it's a hit-and-run galaxy leaving the scene of the accident. Then we have a quasar in Draco. Quasar Q1634 plus 706. And it's notable for being the most distant object in the sky that can be seen in an amateur telescope. Takes a large scope at magnitude 14.4. There's a few other objects. We have NGC 5879 I mentioned earlier. It's a spiral galaxy at magnitude 12.4. And then we have a pair, NGC 4319, a barred spiral galaxy at magnitude 12, and something called Markarian 205, a quasar close to the galaxy. And in 1971, they discovered a luminous bridge between the two objects. NASA disputed the existence of the bridge, but posting a photo taken by the Hubble. But oddly, the photo does, in fact, show the bridge. This has been causing a lot of debate and controversy because it seems to invalidate the hypothesis of an expanding universe because they have very different redshifts. And finally, we have a nice little dwarf spiral at NGC 6503. Easier to see at magnitude 10, but it lies in a region of space known as the local void, which is a large empty region of space next to our local group of galaxies. So Draco, it's a long constellation, wide, but it's got a lot of fascinating objects. Especially if you have a big enough scope, take a tour through Draco and just see what all it has to offer. And unless there's any questions, Kelley, I'll turn it back to you. H50ZT.
H5P for a fill, please, Carolyn.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Matt.
Push to talk to you a second. Could you repeat
your comment on the most distant amateur object in Draco, please? Thank you.
Most distant, what?
I said the most distant object can be seen with an amateur scope. Could you repeat that comment, please?
Hey, they were referring to, the Abell 2218, the galaxy cluster, and they used it as a gravitational lens to view a background galaxy, and that background galaxy would be the very distant, a lot far. Okay, and then maybe you're thinking of the quasar, Q1634 plus 706. Yeah, it is notable for being the most distant object in the sky that can be seen in an amateur telescope. Magnitude 15, if you got one that big. H50ZT.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Yeah, I don't even think I can make out magnitude 15 on my 10-inch or my 12-inch. But thank you very much. Draco is a good constellation, but it's quite dim, and the only place you can see it, at least that I can see, is Texas Star Party. But thanks again, Carolyn. KG5P.
You're welcome, KG50ZT. Back to you, Kelley.
Thank you for that, Carolyn. And yes, I would agree. The Draco galaxy is usually one that I like to look at from the Texas Star Party. Out in far west Texas, always got some great stuff to look at there. Let's move on to recent astronomical discoveries. So, Brenda, W5OZL, what do you have for us tonight?
Hey, this is WB5OZL. First article is entitled, Astronomers See Distant Eruption as Black Hole Destroys Star. Star is shredded, radio telescopes show aftermath. For the first time, astronomers have directly imaged the formation and expansion of a fast-moving jet, a material ejected when the powerful gravity of a supermassive black hole ripped apart a star that wandered too close to the cosmic monster. The scientists tracked the event with radio and infrared telescopes, including the National Science Foundation's Very Long Baseline Array, VLBA, and a pair of colliding galaxies called ARP-299, nearly 150 million light years from Earth. At the core of one of the galaxies, a black hole 20 million times more massive than the Sun, shredded a star more than twice the Sun's mass, setting off a chain of events that revealed important details of the violent encounter. Only a small number of such stellar deaths, called tidal disruption events, or TDEs, have been detected, although scientists have hypothesized that they may be a little more common occurrence. Theorists suggested that material pulled from the doomed star forms a rotating disk around the black hole, emitting intense X-rays and visible light, and also launches jets of material outward from the poles of the disk at nearly the speed of light. Never before have we been able to directly observe the formation and evolution of a jet from one of these events, said Miguel Perez Torres of the Astrophysical Institute of Andalusia in Granada, Spain. The first indication came on January 30th, 2005, when astronomers used the William Herschel telescope in the Canary Islands discovered a bright burst of infrared emission coming from the nucleus of one of the colliding galaxies in ARP-299. On July 17th, 2005, the VLBA revealed a new distinct source of radio emission from the same location. The new object stayed bright at infrared and radio wavelengths, but not invisible. invisible light and X-rays, said Seppo Matila of the University of Turku in Finland. The most likely explanation is that thick interstellar gas and dust near the galaxy's center absorbed the X-rays and visible light, then re-radiated it as infrared. He added, the researchers used the Nordic Optical Telescope on the Canary Islands and NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope to follow the object's infrared emission. Continued observations with the VLBA, the European VLBI network, EVN, and other radio telescopes carried out over nearly a decade showed the source of radio emission expanding in one direction just as expected for a jet. The measured expansion indicated that the material in the jet moved at an average of 1/4 the speed of light. Fortunately, the radio waves are not absorbed in the core of the galaxy, but find their way through it to reach the Earth. These observations used multiple radio telescope antennas separated by thousands of miles to gain the resolving power or ability to see fine detail required to detect the expansion of an object so small. The patient, years-long data collection rewarded the scientists with the evidence of a jet. Galaxies have supermassive black holes containing millions to billions the mass of the sun at their cores. In a black hole, the mass is so concentrated that its gravitational pull is so strong that not even light can escape. When those supermassive black holes are actively drawing in material from their surroundings, that material forms a rotating disk around a black hole, and superfast jets of particles are launched outward. This is the phenomenon seen in radio galaxies and quasars. Going to move on to the next article because we're a little bit short on time tonight. This is entitled The True Power of the Solar Wind. The planets and moons of our solar system are continuously being bombarded by particles hurled away from the sun. On Earth, this has hardly any effect apart from the fascinating northern lights because the dense atmosphere and the magnetic field of the Earth protect us from these solar wind particles. But on the moon or on Mercury, things are different. There, the uppermost layer of rock is gradually eroded by the impact of sun particles. The new results of the TU wind now show that previous models of this process are incomplete. Wind bombardment are in some cases much more drastic than previously thought. These findings are important for the ESA mission Bepi Colombo, Europe's first Mercury mission. Results have now been published in the planetary journal Icarus. The solar wind consists of charged particles, mainly hydrogen and helium ions, but heavier atoms up to iron also play a role, explains Professor Friedrich Omar from the Institute of Applied Physics at TU Wien. These particles hit the surface rocks at a speed of 400 to 800 kilometers per second, and the impact can eject numerous other atoms. These particles can rise high before they fall back to the surface, creating an exosphere around the moon or Mercury, an extremely thin atmosphere of atoms sputtered from the surface rocks by solar wind bombardment. Sphere is of great interest for space research because its composition allows scientists to deduce the chemical composition of the rock's surface, and it is much easier to analyze the exosphere than to land spacecraft on the surface. In October 2018, ESA will send the Bepi Colombo probe to Mercury, which is to obtain information about the geological and chemical properties of Mercury from the composition of the exosphere. However, this requires precise understanding the effects of the solar wind on the rock surfaces, and this is precisely where decisive gaps in knowledge still exist. Therefore, the TU Wien, WIEN, investigated the effect of ion bombardment, wollastonite, typical moon rock. Up to now, it was assumed that the kinetic energy of the fast particles is primarily responsible for atomization of the rock surface, says Paul Szabo, PhD student in Friedrich Omar's team and first author of the current publication. But this is only half the truth. We were able to show that the high electrical charge in the particles plays a decisive role. It is the reason that the particles on the surface can do much more damage than previously thought. When the particles of the solar wind are multiply charged, i.e. when they lack several electrons, they carry a large amount of energy which is released in a flash on impact. If this is not taken into account, the effects of the solar wind on various rocks are misjudged, says Paul Sabo. Therefore, it is not possible to draw exact conclusions about the surface rocks with an incorrect model from the composition of the exosphere. Protons make up by far the largest part of the solar wind, so it was previously thought that they had the strongest influence on the rock. But as it turns out, helium actually plays the main role because, unlike protons, it can be charged twice as positively, and the contribution of heavier ions with an even greater electrical charge must not be neglected either. The cooperation of different research groups was necessary for these findings. High-precision measurements were carried out with a specifically developed microbattery at the Institute of Applied Physics. All right, we are out of time. There's only a few sentences left, but you get the gist of it. These are both from ScienceDaily.com. I will turn it back to Net. This is WB5OZL.
Brenda, and I'm just going to go ahead and, this is K5KTX, I'm going to go ahead and jump into space exploration. There has been a lot of news at NASA.gov, and so I'm not going to be able to cover all of it, but be sure to go out there and see what's going on. Of course, the biggest news story for the last week or so is that it's really dusty on Mars. One of the thickest dust storms ever observed on Mars has been spreading for the past week and a half. The storm has caused NASA's Opportunity rover to suspend science operations, but also offers a window for 4 other spacecraft to learn from the swirling dust. NASA has 3 orbiters circling the red planet, each equipped with special cameras and other atmospheric instruments. Additionally, NASA's Curiosity rover has begun to see an increase in dust at its location in Gale Crater. Dust storms are a frequent feature on Mars, occurring in all seasons. Occasionally, they can balloon into regional storms in a matter of days, and sometimes even expand until they envelop the planet. These massive planet-scaled storms are estimated to happen about once every 3 or 4 Mars years, or 6 to 8 Earth years. The last one was in 2007. They can last weeks or even months at the longest. The current storm above Opportunity, which is still growing, now blankets 14 million square miles of the Martian surface, about a quarter of the planet. All dust events, regardless of size, help shape the Martian surface. Studying their physics is understanding the ancient and modern Martian climate. Science happens on the ground, of course, and despite being on the other side of the planet from the evolving dust storm, the Curiosity rover is beginning to detect increased tau, which is the measure of the veil of dusty haze that blots out sunlight during a storm. As Tuesday, June the 12th, the tau inside Gale Crater was varying between 1.0 and 2.0, figures that are average for dust season, though these levels usually show up later in the season. Fortunately, Curiosity has a nuclear-powered battery. That means it doesn't face the same risk as the solar-powered Opportunity. The tau over Opportunity reached a record 10.8 on June the 10th. The engineers attempted to contact the Opportunity rover on Wednesday, but did not hear back from the nearly 15-year-old rover. The team is now operating under the assumption that the charge in Opportunity's batteries has dipped below 24 volts and the rover has entered low-power fault mode, a condition where all subsystems except a mission clock are turned off. The rover's mission clock is programmed to wake the computer so it can check power levels. If the rover's computer determines that its batteries don't have enough charge, it will again put itself back to sleep. Due to an extreme amount of dust over the Perseverance Valley, mission engineers believe it is unlikely the rover has enough sunlight to charge back up for at least the next several days. So this one will be one to watch, and we're all hoping for the best for our little Opportunity rover. course, about a week and a half ago or so, they did make an announcement that Curiosity had found evidence of some ancient organic material. And I'm not going to read all of that information, but again, you can go to nasa.gov and read the article there. It's pretty interesting information, and the interest keeps going on. Also, Juno has solved a 39-year-old mystery about lightning on Jupiter, so some additional really interesting stuff happening at NASA. And then just a couple of space history items. On June the 10th, back in 2003, the Mars Exploration Rover A, or Spirit, launched. Spirit and its twin rover Opportunity were sent to Mars in search of answers about the history of water on Mars. Spirit landed in the Gusev crater in early 2004 and found that Mars was once wetter than it is today. Spirit made its last contact with Earth on March 22nd, 2010. At that point, it had already operated 20 times longer than the planned 90-day mission. And then June the 11th, 2008, the Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope launched as the Gamma Ray Large Area Space Telescope, or GLASS. The telescope was renamed that August in honor of Enrico Fermi, a pioneer in high-energy physics. Fermi observes the cosmos using the highest energy form of light, gamma rays. Mapping the entire sky every 3 hours, Fermi provides an important window into the most extreme phenomena of the universe, from gamma ray bursts and black hole jets to pulsars, supernova remnants, and the origin of cosmic rays. We're going to wrap up here in just a moment. Just as a reminder, if you're interested in watching satellite passages over your location, you can always get that information from heavens-above.com, heavens-above.com, and put in your location, and you can find out when the International Space Station, the Hubble Space Telescope, and lots of other satellites will be flying overhead, and that's always a fun thing to do. If you want to get in under the wire here, please come now with your call sign, slowly and phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Copy. Kilo Echo 5, Romeo, 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 and it's Marvin in Highland Park.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas.
Kilo 5, Whiskey Tango Hotel, William Mobile in Dallas.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom in Irving.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Quebec Delta, Quebec, Eric in Garland.
Kilo Golf 5, Tango November Foxtrot, Johnny, normally in Garland, now I'm in Austin.
November 5, Yankee, Echo, Oscar, Steve in San Antonio, /Oscar.
All right, let me go with that group. Good, healthy check-in there at the end. I have KE5RRR, Marvin in Highland Park, KF5TSK, Burl, K5WTH, William, N5HYP, Tom, KF5QDQ, Eric, I was in your neighborhood earlier today, KG5TNF, Johnny, and N5YEO, Stephen. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and close it out so we can move on to the Afterglow net. Tonight we had 35 hands participating on the air. You two all be checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook, Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is K5KTX Kelley, and I'll be closing the net at 22:29 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73 everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. This is K5KTX, and I'm clear.
Kelley, excellent net. Enjoyed it immensely. This is KE5ICX. We'll reconvene in about 5 minutes, so refresh everything and come back when we discuss the 1994 movie, The Puppet Masters. Robert Heinlein's story turned into a movie, sort of, kind of. 5 minutes from now, we'll be back. KE5ICX.
R clear.
It's time for the Afterglow Movie Net. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin? No, this is KE5ICX. My name's Tom. I'll be doing the Afterglow Movie Net net control functions. Tonight's movie is the 1994 The Puppet Masters, based on a science fiction film by Robert Heinlein. Yes, this has been altered as usual. Robert Heinlein's stories have a tendency to be changed, updated, derated, B-rated, C-rated even. So there you have it. So what I'm going to do is this. Here are the basic rules of the road for this net. You don't have to have seen the movie. That's okay. If you're a science fiction reader, or even writer for that matter, and you enjoy science fiction and you know this story, the Robert Heinlein novel, by all means, we want you to talk about it and tell us what we're missing, because I didn't read the novel, but I did see the movie last night for the first time ever. So this film, let me give you some details, and then I'll take check-ins. The Puppet Masters, the 1994 science fiction film. It was adapted by a bunch of people, actually 4 people: Ted Elliott, Terry Rossio, David Goyer. No, it was 3. Oh, Robert Heinlein, that's why. Robert Heinlein's 1951 novel, the same title, in which a trio of American government agents attempts to thwart a covert invasion of Earth by mind-controlling alien parasites. The film was directed by Stuart Orme and stars Donald Sutherland, who is no stranger to alien invasions, Eric Thal, Keith David, Julie Warner, and Andrew Robinson. The plot. When a flying saucer, not, reportedly lands in rural Iowa, the old man, not of the amateur radio, but the old man who runs a secret branch of the CIA, decides to investigate. He goes in person, accompanied by Agent Sam, who is also the son of the old man, surprise, surprise, and Jarvis, as well as Dr. Mary Shefton, a NASA scientist in alien biology. That's exobiology, everybody. They just don't say it here. They find the aliens have indeed landed and are planning to use their mind control powers to take over our planet. The aliens are slug-like creatures, I'd rather say manta ray, and they are attaching themselves to people's backs, like manta rays, taking control of the victim's nervous system and manipulating those people as puppets, like those doggone manta rays. Slugs, manta rays, spread steadily and soon attack one of the agents, Sam. Controlling Sam, aliens almost possess the president too, but are defeated by the agents. Agents then learn they can remove the slug by an electric shock, why not, and free Sam from the possession of a slug. It is soon found out all slugs share a common consciousness, a sort of group mind. The aliens quickly reproduce by division, soon controlling not only most of the population of the infested area, but also military personnel sent to the area to fight them. Agents learn where the aliens' hive is located. It's in a parking garage near the local mall. They attempt to sneak in and release Mary, whom aliens captured earlier. Together they find surviving people whom slugs couldn't possess. They take one of them, a boy with them, leaving the hive. As is soon found out by the boy, suffered from encephalitis in the past, and that apparently was the reason the slugs couldn't possess him. A biological warfare is adopted, and seemingly all parasites die. During a later inspection of the hive, the old man is attacked by a healthy slug, by the last healthy slug. In a fight on a helicopter, Sam destroys the parasite attached to the body of his father. Okay, let's all mull that around for a second. while I get the list ready. And you know what you have to do. Hosts must check in first. Please stand by. This is KE5ICX helping net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. Please come now with your call sign, your name. Did you see the movie, and are you a host for the aliens? Please come now.
Copy Kilo Echo 5, Romeo, 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 Mobile in Highland Park, and I did see the movie.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving, Holly I, and Anna did see the movie, and we are not hosts.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I did not see the movie, but I may have been infected by the book, I'm not sure.
Hello, 5. Juliet Delta Whiskey did not see the movie. Will be standing by in the background. K5JW.
Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango. I did see the movie, and I'm not the host.
Hello, Golf 5, Whiskey Golf Hotel. This is Nick in Carrollton. I did see the movie, and if I took my shirt off for you to check, you couldn't tell either way because we're on the radio.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas, and how I regret taking that cruise excursion to Stingray City in the Cayman Islands, W5EBB.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Sierra Kilo, Burl, I did see the movie.
5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto. I read the book many years ago. I did see the movie. I was infested, but it left. It said I talked too much, so oh well. Back to net, WB50ZL.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jay near Weatherford. I did see the film, and I'm a host for something else, but I think we're on good terms, and it's not that unique. H5BDW.
And I did see the movie.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. I did see the movie. One tried to get me, but I started reciting multiplication tables, and it hauled buns the other way. This is KF5PDS.
All right, excellent. Let me run down this list here. I've got KE5, Triple R, Melvin, yes, he saw the movie, and he's mobile, so we'll see if we pick up on him later. N5HYP, Tom, yes, he's not a host. NT5TM, Tony, no, he did not see the movie, but he could be a host. K5JDW, John, no, he did not see the movie, he's going to listen only. He's probably a host. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn, yes, she saw the movie. No, she's not a host. KG5WGH, Nick. Yes, He did see the movie? No, he's not a host. W5EBB, David in Dallas. Yes, he saw the movie, and he is probably a host. KF5 TSK, Burl. Yes, he saw the movie. He will not admit if he's a host. WV5OZL. Miss Brenda says, yes, she saw the movie. Host? What's a host? KG5BZW. Jay, near Weatherford, Utah. Yes, and he is a host. KB5RHE, Brian, no and no. He's over in Fort Worth. I got you checked in, by the way. There was another call. NJ, November Juliet, Frank. I didn't get the first part of your call, maybe not the the last part of your call, Frank. If you could give me your full call again, let me know, and I do acknowledge you did see the movie. Go ahead, Frank.
Apologies, I believe the alien prevented my transmission. It is Kilo Golf 5, Zulu, November, Juliet.
All right, since you did see the movie and you could be a host, it's Kilo Golf 5, Zombie, November, Juliet. And you did see the movie. I got you down. KF5 PDS, Miss Billy, our scientist, and a person who can balance a checkbook. I'm sending mine over. In Sherman, yes, she saw the movie. Additional check-ins, please come now. Boy, good check-in list this evening. We'll call that good. I will take additional check-ins later on. So I want everybody to think about this for a little bit. Think about the plot. How did this movie play out for you? We've got a number of people who saw it. If you did not see it, I'll go ahead and ask on the first round if you have any comments. If you don't, that's okay. If you said you were listening, I will not call on you. However, the rules are this. If you hear something that you would like to make comment about, and you are not actively participating, just say recheck. We'll put you in there. It's okay, even if you are an insidious host trying to take control of the world. So let me go to the top of the list. We're talking about the plot. So I'm going to ask Melvin, KE5RRR, do you have any comments on the plot on this fine film? Melvin, go ahead. This is KE5I6.
To stay awake during it, but it could use a little bit more thought put into it. KE5RRR back to net control.
Well, that's the quickest one ever. More thought. That could mean that you are a host, suggesting that somehow or another this whole brain thing with the aliens is there. Okay, next up, and I'll be calling on you later, Melvin, if you're around. N5HYP, Tom and Company. You saw the movie. You're not a host. What'd you think of the plot and family?
This is N5HYP. Hi, Tom, and everybody else. The movie was deep and entertaining. It started at the beginning, and I thought I was, by all the suits, I thought it was going to be somewhat of an X-Files ripoff. And, coming from the mid-90s, about, I think, when the X-Files was originally big, I kept thinking we had Mulder and Scully there, but we didn't. You had to fence with a lot of intelligence to kind of follow along with the plot because there were a lot of broad assumptions being made, but it was entertaining. It had its moments, and it was a good ride, I thought. Back to that, N5HYP.
Hey, very good, Tom. If you could pump up your power just a little bit, you're about, I'd say 80% noise. I had to turn up the volume to 11, and then try and use my DSP in my head. I have a number of those, not very good ones. So next time around, just bump up your power a little bit or improve your position. But you said it was a good ride. I got it. NT5TM, Tony, please give us your opinion of the plot. No host required. Okay, he could be over on TrafficNet, or he has been totally possessed. I'm going to skip on down, John. I know you said you're just listening, so remember you can break and tell us anything that you feel about the film, good, bad, or anything about Robert Heinlein. KC50ZT, Miss Carolyn, you are not a host, but you did see the movie. What did you think about the plot? Go ahead.
It was very involved, and you had to pay attention to follow it, you know, and yet it did make sense with, you know, with the creatures, taking that route to, take over the planet, and like the government was, you know, officials, you know, the different ones were sort of running around, not quite as organized as they could have been, but and some just appeared out of nowhere. You wonder who gave them the orders, but anyway, it winds through into a satisfactory ending, which makes it happily, and I think I consider it a good movie, you might say it, although a little bit say hard to understand in a few places. H50ZT.
Thank you, Miss Carolyn. Interesting comment. I do have something to say about that. I put a little asterisk there next to your name. Let's see, KG5WGH, Nick. He's not a host, but he did see the movie. Go ahead, Nick. Tell us about the plot.
It's about what I expected of a mid-90s movie, I guess. I think I had probably seen it along the way, and I do recall reading the book a long time ago. I don't remember, exact details of what they did to it, but knowing Heinlein's books and from the 50s and that time, I know one of the things that they did was kind of strip down some of the undertones. That would have been Cold War paranoia type stuff, and they didn't really play much on the paranoia. They had that one scene, and it was very easy to tell who was the person who had the manta ray on their back at that point. I felt like they could have played that up a lot more and stretched it further into the movie and kind of given you that suspense that you would normally get from that type of story, but they didn't really seem to want to do that there. But one thing I didn't get was, why does everybody know who this secret CIA guy is? As soon as he walked in the room, they know exactly who Donald Sutherland's character is. So that was a little unusual for some secret black ops type guy. So another thing that I thought with the plot was a little, they kind of played on some of the usual sci-fi tropes, but they didn't really explain it. And if the hive mind stuff, if you watch a lot of sci-fi and all that, we kind of know what to expect there. But it kind of seemed they were trying to mainstream this movie, so you would have thought they'd have to get a little more explanation there instead of just kind of going on about one mind. And I think that's probably Oh, well, why would these aliens FedEx themselves to Richard Belzer all of a sudden out of nowhere when they can just stick to people? And that was another thing with the manta ray aliens. They had to be held up at the first of the movie, but then suddenly they could get a 6-foot proboscis and just jump around to people. So I thought that took a little bit away, too, that they kind of introduced that on us in mid-flight. On the plot, that's probably all I've got to say right now, KG5WGH.
Excellent, Nick. Very good comments. Let's see, and I have an asterisk next to your name. Be ready. Manta rays are coming your way. W5EBB, David in Dallas. Yes, you saw the movie, and yes, you are a host. So we are particularly interested in your comments about the plot. Please go ahead.
Well, let me just say first, I'm not a host, but I just had a brush with one and got enough DNA so that I can tap into the hive mind. So I've got a little bit of understanding of what they're up to. Now, the plot was kind of an amalgam of a lot of plot elements from other movies. Obviously Alien, and also The Thing, especially with that tentacle whip. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. The Matrix, how Donald Sutherland knew how to fly a helicopter. And even Blade Runner 2049 with the hanging cocoon, growing of the new alien in human form, I guess. But overall, I thought the plot moved along really well. It got started just right off the bat, plausibly constructed. Maybe because it reused so many familiar plot elements, which, of course, were all stolen from Robert Heinlein, W5EBB.
Very good. Thanks, David. You always have some good comments about especially plot. Okay, this is KE5ICX moving down the list. KF5TSK. Burl, I know you have comments about this film, and let's see, are you a host? I have a question mark, and yes, you saw the movie. Go ahead, Burl.
That's KF5TSK. No, I'm not a host. There was something about this movie that some things seem to be very, rushed. It's like, a spaceship lands and, we send 2 or 3 people to go look for it and, it's not really what it should be and, so much attention was put into, these creatures, invading people, and it's like, this is really a slow movie. Someone said that it's, it was really drawn out. Some things seem to be, move, rather fast, and some things, I thought the helicopter ride was rather unusual that they put it on autopilot, and yet it's flying around, it's out of control, and it's missing objects, and who knows about a remote control on a helicopter? Can't find this game back to net.
All right, thank you, Burl. The cynic in you, I see it. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda. Yes, you saw the movie. You did not state if you were a host or not. OZL, go ahead with your comments.
This is WB5OZL. I did make a comment that I was a host, but it left because it said I talked too much, and so it went away. So, I liked the movie. Of course, I liked the book, and I love Robert Heinlein. But the movie was pretty good, but it left you wondering, what kind of life did these critters have back on their home planet? Did they have a host there? Did they exist without hosts? And why did they have to come all the way to Earth to find hosts to do whatever it is that they do? And what do they eat? How do they find sustenance? And they reproduce at a rate that I think pretty soon they would use up all the human bodies that they have. They never exactly told us what the end was going to be for them. And so that just kind of left me wondering. And I just wonder how they managed to fly the ship without hands. But, you know, it's kind of formulaic. It's like, you know, War of the Worlds. They find something, some weakness in the alien race, and then they can kill them all. So, you know, it's kind of almost a cop-out, in my opinion. All right, I'll turn it back. WB5OZL.
Right, very good, Miss Brenda. And I think Tony NT5TM had something to say about this, but he lost his turn. He'll have to come back later on when he is repossessed. Let's see, next on the list, KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. Yes, he saw the movie, and he is a host. Jay, tell us more from KE5I6.
This is KG5BZW. Oh, I don't know how long I really want to. Well, let me just have my say, and we'll see if what happens. I found the movie not terrible. I haven't read the book. I do kind of want to read it. There were a few drawbacks. Some of the stuff I probably ought to talk about how in the technical section, but it's kind of related to the plot. I noticed it was full of typical 90s tropes, but I don't know. I can't even really list them off my top of my head. It just, it's like I've seen that before, and you know, that kind of thing. I will agree that with Brenda that the production rate of the slugs was rather a little bit insane. Now about that contiguous blob, that's not how outbreaks occur, and so but you see later in the movie that it's kind of a key to the plot, but it's not exactly clear to me if the fact that it's a contiguous blob is foreshadowing or if it's just poor writing, because if you've ever seen reports of outbreaks, well, no, it's like people travel, and why is there not any people traveling here? Big questions. They kind of happen early on before. Oh, there's a hive, and everybody has to go back to the hive, and I don't know. It just kind of annoyed me because it's like, I don't know. It didn't seem to be something that it didn't seem to be developed properly. Anyway, that's what the sentient bacteria inside me is telling. So, yeah. I'll hand it back to net control. It's KG5BGW.
Thank you, Jay. Interesting comments, and actually, I see a consensus building up here. I'm putting an asterisk by your name, so be ready. KB5RH. Oh, he says no, he's just going to listen in. Brian, if you have any comments, just let us know. KG5Z, November, Juliet Frank, over in somewhere. Yes, you saw the movie. So, Farmer's Branch, I think. I could be wrong. Anyway, Frank, your comments on the film. This is KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KG5 Zulu November Juliet, and it's Frank from Flower Mound, actually. I found the plot was very much like almost like a 1950s weird science CC comic, if anybody remembers those or has seen those. And I thought that they didn't do a very good job of explaining the aliens' real motives, what was really going on. And, what they should have done is they had a very fine actor who would have been the perfect infected person to be the deranged alien, and that would have been Andrew Robinson, who played Scorpio in the old Dirty Harry movie, if you remember him. He plays probably the best psychopath of all time, and they just had him as a little cameo, and they killed him very quickly. That was a huge loss. The other comment is, I haven't read the book, but I found the fake spaceship made by the villagers to be very funny, and I kind of thought at the time that they used that as a cheap plot device because maybe they didn't have a budget to make a nice spaceship. And that's pretty much it for me plot-wise.
Thank you, Frank, and stick around because I agree with you on the spaceship, Chaz, and you stole my thunder, but that's okay because I absolutely agree with you. Let's see. Next up, Miss Billy, KF5 PDS. Please tell us your thoughts on the plot. And you did see the movie. You won't tell me if you were a host or not. Go ahead, Billy.
Well, I did make comments about a host. I said one tried to latch on to me, but I started spouting some math at it, and it just ran away in terror. Yeah, the plot, to me it felt more like a made-for-TV movie and not a feature film. I could see, watching this on television, it felt like the right place to watch it on the small screen rather than the big screen. I don't know how this would have done in the theaters. I saw that it made about $8 million at the box office, which, I guess for the times was pretty respectable. But to me, the plot, it had some very slow, draggy moments. I kept looking at the time towards the end to see how much time was left because I was ready for the thing to wrap up. So to me, the plot moved kind of slow in places, especially towards the end. I don't know, if there was the action there, it just didn't do it for me. To me, it felt slow. Yeah, you definitely see a lot of tropes in there, and especially at the end, using mankind's biology to defeat the alien, like in War of the Worlds, so that was interesting. But yeah, I agree with the comment, the wasted talent. So many good actors that could have done so much more with it, but I was reading about the writing, and the writers had trouble, friction with the Disney executives because the writers wanted to be true to the book, which they definitely could have included a lot more details, I guess, to make it more, flesh it out more. But then Disney wanted a product they could sell, so they ended up, I think, compromising, staying true to the book, but watering it down so much that I guess the general public would like it. But, then that gives an extremely light treatment of the plot, and there's a lot that's not explained. So it makes me want to read the book. I love Heinlein. I've read Stranger in a Strange Land a long time ago. But, anytime they've tried to do a Heinlein film, to me, like Starship Troopers, it just comes off just being, I don't want to say stupid, but, it's just super light and just not as intense as it could be, and not, make it a serious film. Don't camp it up, But I don't know. I like Donald Sutherland. I always enjoy his performances. I thought, aside from some slow parts, I thought the plot moved well. it was cohesive. It didn't seem to have a lot of jumps to where you couldn't figure out what was going on. I just think it wasn't as intense as it could have been. So with that, I'll return it to you. This is KF5PDS, back to now.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy, and interesting comments, and I agree with a lot of what you just said. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and, let's see here. I'll be at the end of the list. I'll ask for additional check-ins. We're talking about the plot for tonight's movie, which is The Puppet Masters from 1994. Additional check-ins, please come now. All right, I may be getting a local kerchunk here. It seems very close, so I think you're on the output frequency, whomever you are, and you're close to me. You need to do an offset. Okay, let's see here. Let me make my comments, and then I'll call out and go to the top of the list. First off, thank you all for your comments and watching the movie. This is really great because it makes it easier for me to actually make my comments because I can glob off of everything that you have already said. KC50ZT, Miss Carolyn mentioned about the government and not being able to really handle this situation effectively. I kind of agree with that. They didn't seem very well ordered through this thing. They didn't know how to respond to the emergency. And I guess in real life we've had to deal with that over the years. Not just recently, but over many decades. Sometimes we do a good job, sometimes we don't, as far as the government is concerned. And we're always fearful that the government won't do what it needs to do, no matter the time period. Let's see, there was another comment. Hold on. This was mentioned by Nick. KG5WGH, he talked about all of the sci-fi tropes in this thing. I agree. There were a lot of them in this film. They just, the common things that we've seen in other films, such as Invasion of the Body Snatchers and anything with spores, and this did show up. So it was no different from those other films in that regard. Hive mind and all of that, yep, that's been done and done to death because we need aliens who don't have a personality personally because they are the enemy. And I think that's probably the bigger part of this thing is that when you can anonymize your enemy and make them not of any significance and not being cohesive or having an actual cause. And that's what's missing from this story, too. And I agree with Nick on this, of sorts, and I think others, too, is that the character, the motivation behind the invasion, I don't think I got that from the film. They just show up and, okay, we're going to take over Earth. Why not? What other reason could you have? We've had many movies with the invasion where they come for water, they come for people to run as batteries, to do all these different things. And they're all kind of superficial in the end. To make that extra special trip to Earth with the immense amount of energy that's required to get you here, and all they want to do is just take over the Earth, or in this case, they don't even know what they want to do. We don't even hear why they're here. What was the motivation? How does it all play out? That drives me nuts as well. And WB50ZL, Miss Brenda mentioned that as well. What's their end game? What are they doing? I agree with that one. ZNJ, Frank, I put an asterisk. Oh, all of the tropes as well. Everybody, the spaceship. Where's the spaceship? And Frank, I think you nailed it with the locals, the village locals going and building the spaceship. And I believe shared over on our Facebook page, somebody put this out. The original writer wrote about the fact that nobody wanted to build the spaceship. And I think that somehow snuck into the storyline as a sarcastic rebuttal. So I thought that was pretty cool that you noticed that, and it was a part of it. Billy says, draggy moments, I agree. No doubt the film has these things going on in it that could have made it better. Now, one of the things, and I'm going by memory, and maybe Tony, I'm going to ask if he's out there and ask for his comments right after this, but the story had 7 plot points. 7 plot points originally, as discussed by the original writer, the writing duel, which are the first 2 guys that were listed, and said that, I don't have their names here right away, but at any rate, they wanted to do all 7 plot points, some of which I remember were as follows. About and wanted to make the entire United States completely taken over by aliens. The Utah thing was just one part. As an example, and I remember this reading, that one of the statements in the book was the pool is closed for summer as folks go, as the heroes go into the town in Utah somewhere and see that. And realize, of course, obviously, the pool is always open in summer. I don't have to tell you that. You know that. But it seemed as though this thing could have been much more sly and better done than it was. And with that being said, one final comment. Think the film was all that bad based on the materials that they had. If you're going to do a remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Donald Sutherland's kind of required because he was in the remake of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is why I think he's in this story. He plays the old man. Oh, there was a comment earlier about the fact that everybody knew who he was, but in a clandestine operation, how come everybody knows him? That's a really good question. And by the way, I am reading a book about all of that, spy versus spy stuff. I'll tell you about that another time. All right, I've said enough. I'll go ahead and start at the top of the list. KE5RRR, Melvin. Next up on the list, and maybe I should let me vamp a little bit because not everybody knows the rules of the road here. The next thing we talk about are the characters themselves. Now, a lot of times characters aren't always that interesting and we don't have a lot to say. Other times characters act in irrational ways and are annoying. And in some cases they become the heroes for no known reason why they are. And finally, in the end, they always prevail and live or not. So think about the characterization here. If there's something you got to say about it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. On this round, we'll start at the top. So, KE5RRR, Melvin, what do you say about characterization?
KE5RRR. I didn't do the picking for the characters in the movie, but I think they should have rethought the ones that they had. KE5RRR back to net.
On there, N5HYP, Tom, what did you think about the characterization? Go ahead.
Tell me if this is a little better signal-wise.
That's much better than it was. You're still about 60% noise, but you are readable, so go ahead.
All right. Just change position in the house. I mean, like I kind of mentioned before, it kind of had, it tried to start off with, I think, X-Files type vibe with the characters and such. And so it felt, felt like we weren't getting any new ground with characters. And the fact that, of course, we're trying to figure out who was going to get infected, and it was usually minor characters, but this time it was several of the major characters, so that added a bit of tension. Obviously, aside from the agents and the couple of military guys who had a little bit of fun, and everybody else was just kind of was there to be puppeteered dummies, I guess. But there wasn't much depth beyond a few characters there. That's really about all I have on this. It was a fun movie to watch. It wasn't exactly great, but it was fun. And I'm done for the night. 7-3 all. 95 HYP.
Dear, that's pretty much a lackluster comments on this film. All right, I'm going to take a pause here because as we get later and later in the evening, people drop off for whatever reason, because the hosts are tired. They want to go to bed. I just want to mention that next week at Field Day, Dallas Amateur Radio Club will be at Flagpole Hill in Dallas. Everyone is welcome to attend. We'd love to have you at Man a Radio, visit with club members and all that jazz. We will also be we will not have an over-air Afterglow movie, but what we will be doing is we will be watching together a film, and this one is Little Shop of Horrors, the musical. I believe it's from 1990-91. It's a great and fun film, and it should be experienced with others because it's that much fun. It's based on the 1964 film with Jack Nicholson, the low-budget film. But this thing is great. It's a wonderful film. So keep that in mind. We'll be watching it together at 10:30. We have a pretty good-sized screen with excellent sound. You would be surprised outdoors. We've done this before. We saw Star Wars last year, and the year before that, we saw the The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price in HD, no less. So this one should be fun. I hope if you haven't seen it, you will enjoy it. If you have seen it, you'll still enjoy it. So that's my PSA for tonight, and that will be a week from tonight at 10:30. Come on by. If you fall asleep, that's okay. Other people have fallen on the concrete and fell asleep. Okay, let's see. N5HYP, we got you down. NT5TM, Tony, are you there? If you are, your thoughts on the plot as well as characterizations. Tony, NT5TM from KE5ICX.
Let's see if it's working.
Excellent. Go ahead.
About that, we were outside, and by twiddling knobs in my HT, I inadvertently switched the repeater shift backwards. I was transmitting above the output, and that does not work. Regarding the plot, it's really surprising that this was not a big hit movie with lots of really good-looking people in it, a la The Fifth Element, because a key part of the plot of the book is that people have to wear less and less clothing. So there's this wonderful opportunity, which I guess Disney doesn't like to take because they're Disney, to have a cast of very attractive people wearing very tight clothing for the entire movie, and see it's even integral to the plot. I did find an essay online, which, although I didn't see the movie, I did read, that talked about a lot of the key incidents in the movie, in the book, such as when one of the alien brain slugs infects a chimpanzee named Satan, and kind of talked about how cinematic these incidents were, because they really were. The book is very short. It's a very fast-reading early Heinlein book, and it almost feels like it's supposed to be a movie, particularly a B-movie from the 50s. So there are some very cinematic moments which mostly did not make it into the film. So that's kind of my general commenting. I have nothing to say about the characters because I didn't see the movie. In the book, the characters were very simplistic tropes. Heroic man who wants to protect the woman, an old man who, you know, is very patriotic and always thinking of the good of everyone and duty. The characters were not multidimensional in the book to any degree whatsoever. So I'm curious to hear what other people say about how the characters were in the movie. NT5TF.
Oh, thanks, Tony. And anytime, well, okay, you said no, and you are a host. That's okay. You did not see the movie. That's fine. But I like your comments anyway. KC50ZT, Miss Karen, what do you say about the characterization? We're coming up short this evening, so you have to bring us up front and personal with these characters. Go ahead. KC50ZT from KE5ICX.
Hey, one thing, had so many characters in most of the scenes, which could be, you get a little confused sometimes, but, okay, first of all, you have the hero, Sam, and it was sort of noble, you know, he was willing to risk everything to save his father, even though his father had told him, let go, you know, and but one thing struck me was the woman scientist. After they had freed her, and apparently there were several, captives that couldn't be that the host couldn't take over, but the one she picked to rescue was a little boy, and I thought it was nice of her, you know, and she was really fought, you know, to get to the roof, you know, to rescue him. And then Sam really fights, you know, to get, to rescue, get them all out. That's, and of course, I jumped to the last first. Let me reset. In some of the earlier scenes, especially, I guess it was back in Washington, or it wasn't quite clear, you know, where with all the government agents, wonder if there was more than one side, you know, one wasn't telling the other agencies what they were doing. It's hard to say, like if the old man was CIA, he wasn't letting the military know, or maybe the military was trying something and not letting the CIA know, or, and, you know, it was sort of a lot of characters, all, you know, and they look nearly all like a lot of them, you know, that made it hard to tell them apart, but one that stood out is being heroic, and that, and of course, it's the main characters. You know, it's hard to pick out a single one and remember the name. You know, there were so many, and just continuous action seemed like no really slow scenes to sort of break it up, you might say. KH5OZT.
All right, very good. And you get another asterisk, so because I have comments about that as well. Just for me personally, let's see, this is KE5ICX. I'm kind of the net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. We are talking about the movie The Puppet Masters from the Robert Heinlein story. Kind of, sort of, not so good because they made a lot of changes, and now we're talking about the characterization. So if you would like to join us, I'll get you here when I get to the bottom of the list, and then we'll ask you a few things. Let's see. Next on the list is Nick, KG5WGH. Your comments on the characters. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind, our father-son combo just kept really dragging me along, because what I expected them to do was to play out some things with their relationship, us to find out a little more backstory, and then that to be what's end up saving our day, because that's kind of what a mid-90s movie does. Because if you had a keen eye, you could tell pretty early on that Donald Sutherland would be the one with the fighting the last of the manta rays. Just, you know, there's a couple of indicators, one of those things where he almost took off his shirt but didn't. It kind of, he's this stoic, overbearing, you know, he's the one in charge. Of course, he's going to be the one that almost goes down in the end. But I thought that's what we were going to play out, and that our father-son thing was going to get figured out, and that's what would let him overcome the manta ray possession. But they never really did that. They just kind of kept stringing along. They never really explained the wife and the son's mother. Maybe it was he didn't have much to do with his son because of something what happened to the wife. We just got a lot of pent-up things from the son, and it never really got resolved. And I thought that was kind of hindered both characters' growth a little bit for them developing that out for us. They could have took that a few different directions. Our biologist, I don't know as far as a character what she had going. She seemed like she had a lot of things figured out, but somehow she got wrapped up with this guy after he had a breakdown in the shower. So I'm not sure how that really got to where it was. But then when we get to the end, we had Donald Sutherland's very serious character, and first of all, no one noticed the bit about the cane, even the son. But more than that, he never smiled in this whole movie. And then he had a big old grin when he was running out the door, and no one noticed this. I would think this type of person, it would be odd to see them smile. So I thought that maybe that's a little going back to the plot point, but that's also a little character twist they did all of a sudden. And then I think my final thing is that right there at the end in the helicopter, suddenly the aliens suddenly developed their character somehow. Before they were pretty ignorant of everything, ignorant of humans, and then suddenly they understood not the hive mind, but the individual mind and father-son relationship with that dialogue they had. So I wasn't sure how exactly that happened. And on the characters, I believe that's all for me, KG5WGH.
And those are all really good comments. So, yeah. I think that defines scripts, whether they're good scripts or not, and when you got to take it to a little deeper meaning. But I've got comments later. This is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight. Not Skynet. What are we doing? Oh, yes, the Afterglow Movie Net. And for anybody listening, because I know people fall asleep, and I'll just make this brief, If you'd like to be put on the list and get the update as far as what the movie is for this week, send an email to Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX at yahoo.com. I shouldn't have to spell that one out. Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray at yahoo.com. Say you would like to be added to the list, and I'll add you to the list, and you'll find out where the links are. Otherwise, if you're on Facebook and you're okay with that, just go to Afterglow, that's one word, movie, the second word, Afterglow Movie, and say you'd like to sign up, and you'll get the same information that way, as well as the links. Do provide links for the movies. These are free movies that are available usually on YouTube, usually in public domain. So I try and give you safe sites, and we try and do movies like that. If we can't, I'll go ahead and tell you that you're on your own. You're going to have to find the movie one way or the other. But about 99% of the time, and that's pretty close to true, it's available online, and it's available through regular means. Okay, next up on the list is W5EBB, David over in Dallas. What do you have to say about the characters?
Well, as they were being controlled by the parasite, there wasn't really much to say about the individual characters because they were all acting not of their own accord. But, the Donald Sutherland character, I like him as an actor in most of his roles, and I like him in this too. His character is slimy to begin with. He's cocky, self-centered, rude to his son. But he was an expert in his field, so, some of that attitude, people would give him a pass, I guess. And he reverted to that, right back to it after the parasite was gone. Now, generally, the character, I guess, the parasite character, distributed, was a little bit different than like the ones from Independence Day, all the aliens, and Attack of the Crab Monsters, which I saw today, which their motive was, we want you to die. That's it, we want you to die. But in the Puppet Masters, they don't want you to die. They want to use you, control you, possess you for their benefit. Not symbiotic at all, but it allows virtually instant adaptation to their new, so temporary environment. So there's a pragmatism to their aggression. It's not just about being evil, just for being evil. But the single-minded hive can't see beyond the one, the collective mind that considers only itself. And to not factor in the response of the host, in their reactions and their response of what they're inhabiting, they don't even consider the possibilities and strategies, courses of action that could maximize their likelihood of survival. And in this movie, their incapacity to even consider a symbiotic or cooperative course ultimately leads to their demise. In this little nod to aliens. W5EBB.
David, and good comments, of course. This is KE5ICX, net control for tonight's Afterglow Movie. We are talking about the Puppet Masters. So when I get to the bottom of the list, I'll take additional check-ins. Next up, KF5TSK, Burl, your comments on characters.
That's KF5TSK. Well, first thing first impression of this movie is that I kept wondering, is this a horror movie? Where's the scientific? You have these great aliens, and they've come to take over things, but they have claws. How do they make anything? They, I guess, assimilate people and they build things for them, but yet they really didn't build anything. It wasn't. They managed used to have a swamp. You know, their spacecraft was actually looked like a miniature grain silo, and it's like, well, you know, corrugated steel, and it's like, well, and my first thought was, you know, this really was a butcher movie, and I guess it was. You know, I thought the scientists did a weak analysis of the aliens, and, you know, Julie Warner is just, you know, all over the place, you know, going directly to the hive, and, you know, everyone knows that she's going there, but kind of drawn out, and you know, the scenes of the animals attacking people, there were a lot of those. I thought may have been too many of them. Can't find TSK back to net.
Thanks, Pearl. Good comments, and I am putting an asterisk by your name because I agree with you on several comments. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, what do you say about characterization?
B50ZL, I thought it was pretty good. I really liked the female lead. She's so much better than the simpering, silly females that just wilt or fall apart whenever bad things happen and cling to the guys and don't know what to do. And they didn't have her making coffee or sandwiches or things like that. The demeaning female characters that we see in so many old science fiction movies. Of course, this was the 90s and not the 50s. I thought everybody was pretty well cast. I just loved Donald Sutherland, and thought he was pretty good in it. But this had all the formula. You know, you've got man against monster, space monster. You got the crusty old guy and the beautiful and brilliant female scientist, and our hero, strong and brave guy that helps save the day, and then. You know, I mean, it's pretty routine, the characterization of this, the kind of characters that they have. But that's okay. That's so many movies, and so I don't really have a problem with it. Okay, back to net, WB50ZL.
Very good. Thank you, Miss Brenda. KG5BZWJ, your comments on characters. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. Characters. Well, I think I'm with Brenda in that everybody seemed to nobody seemed to really be out of place. Donald Sutherland did a pretty good job with his character. Some weird plot points. Again, I feel like I'm going back to plot instead of character. There's just, I guess some of the things that I think were just a little bit out of place was, well, of course, the finale where, you know, he's been so careful. The old man has been so careful with, and so knowledgeable, and, you know, could see, okay, the Army guys were, you know, yep, the Army guys probably are taking over and stuff like that. Made some kind of odd, out of character choices to let the plot go along. I thought, you know, the inspection, which just that was just there just so he could be a host. I mean, you could see it a mile away. I could. But otherwise, I'll say this. I kind of like the even though it might be, following the same kind of trope, the hive mind trope, I actually do like the hive mind, just how it kind of learns. And in fact, that might be the one character that really develops. Sure, you have the brave soul who breaks down, and that part, which is kind of interesting, kind of weird, but the slug that actually kind of learns to adapt is probably the most character that develops. It was kind of interesting how it actually seemed a little bit more selfish. Of course, it makes sense to be selfish. What am I trying to say? Not exactly. There's another word I'm trying to say. Just more body driven. I don't know. Let me reset. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say, really. This is KG5BZW back in that.
Thanks, Jay. And just to remind everybody, we'll do another round. I will acknowledge additional check-ins here in just a couple of minutes when we get to the bottom of the list, which isn't too much longer. We are talking about the Puppet Masters 1994 film based on the Robert Heinlein story. We are now currently talking about characters, but if you decide to come in late, we will talk about plot as well. The next round will be all about any and everything. So, next on the list is Frank, KG5, Zulu November, Juliet. You have comments about characterization. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is KG5ZNJ. The problem with this movie, with characters, is they have a large cast, and they spend so much time with scenes of just chasing down, the one alien. And that's kind of wasting time because they do it over and over again. They do it many times. And, when you do that, the movie is mostly running after aliens. And they tried to redo the scene in The Thing where they try to figure out who's infected and who's not. I mean, all you'd have to do is pat them on the back. You'd know right away, right? So it was kind of a big waste of time. And because of that, they never really had time to develop their characters. And they had some good actors in the mix there. And, like was said, the female lead should have been used a little more. They had the right idea with her, but they didn't develop her enough, and she should have been kind of like the brains and put some intelligence into it as to figuring out what they're trying to do. But they did okay with her. She was pretty good. But they still gave her a cheap shot. They did the thing where, she was the first alien detector by unbuttoning her blouse. Like, that was a cheap shot. I don't know. There just wasn't a lot of character development. By the way, did everybody notice that the aliens had antennas? How cool is that? This is KG5ZNJ.
Antenna's good, Frank. Thank you. Actually, that's a pretty good comment. Okay, KF5PDS, Miss Billy, you have comments about characterization. I know you've got them written down. Tell us what's good, bad, and ugly about these people. Go ahead.
Well, to start with, yeah, I agree with having Donald Sutherland in here because of the whole Invasion of the Body Snatchers connection. I like that he plays a character. He plays kind of a heavy character always, it seems like. But it affords some comic relief at the end when he gets taken over and he's flying the helicopter doctor. So it was good to see his character, you know, him get to exhibit some humor in his characterization. But he's not an outright villain, you know, which I like. And I agree with, you know, some of the other characters. They could have been fleshed out more. They could have, you know, gone deeper into some of the characterizations. There were a lot of characters to keep track of. And that does make it difficult to follow a film. Sometimes it's hard to discuss plot with your characterization without discussing plot too, because they drive each other, or they're supposed to. And so when the plot is weak, it makes it hard for characters to, you know, be robust, you know. And so that could, you know, like Jay was saying, be poor writing. And I think it was in this case. Disney wanted them to water down, make it a more marketable product, and therefore they couldn't be as intense or explore any of the plot points that they do in the book. So a lot of the plot points had to have been left out. So yeah, just thinking about the characters, the son and the exobiologist, they would, you know, could have had more, you know, I guess intensity with those characters. And I think it was a waste of a lot of good talent, you know, because they had several really great actors in there that were great in other feature films and police dramas on TV, and, you know, they could have gone deeper with these characters because they had actors that had range, and they just weren't utilized. So other than that, I can't really think of anything else with regards to character. So I'll return it to you. This is KFI PDS, back to net.
Thank you, Miss Billy. I sense a consensus going on here as far as characterization. Let's see. I want to acknowledge W5GJT. Gene, he's not seeing the movie, but he is listening in. Yep, Gene's still there. Gene, you got any comments? I know you didn't see the movie, but anything about alien possession? I'll give you a chance here. W5GJT from KE5I6. He says he has no comments and he'll be listening, and that's fine, Gene. We're here every Saturday night from 10:30 until midnight usually. We go about 90 minutes usually. So if you want to see or be a part of it, except next week we won't have a net. We will actually be watching the movie. What are we watching? Little Shop of Horrors once a year during Field Day. Late at night, because we've been on the radios and otherwise doing things, we go ahead and have a super cool thing down at Flagpole Hill, which everyone is invited to. So if you'd like to come by around 10:30, I know people are starting to fall out, but it will be a musical, our first musical, Little Shop of Horrors. I think from 1994, 1992, I think, in any case. All right, let me do this. I'll go ahead and open it up. Any additional check-ins, please come now. All right, let me go ahead and open up the discussion. Anything you want to talk about? The movie? The plot, the music. Well, we already did plot, but if you want to talk about music, I have comments about music. The technical parts of the film, were they good, bad, indifferent? Anything you want. I'm going to open it up. Please come with your call sign if you got additional comments. Please come now.
KF5 PSK.
W5OZL.
Let's see, I've got 4 people, K5TSK, Burl. Next station, KG5, and then I lost you. I think it's WGH. Station with the KG5 after Burl. Go ahead.
That's KG5, WGH, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. I got you on the list. W5EBB, David, and WB5OZL, Miss Brenda. Let's start at the top. K5TSK, Burl. Comments. Go ahead.
One comment I have is Julie Warner. You know, she thought everyone around the crash site was acting unusual. And when she was on the spacecraft, it was like, well, I raised my skirt, and the boys didn't look. I don't know what's wrong. And when they were in the office of the guy at the radio station, it's like, well, I opened my blouse, and I bent over him, and it's like he covered his face. And my thought was it really that horrible? K5TSK back to net.
April. Yeah, interesting, isn't it? Okay. KG5, WGH, Nick, go ahead with your comments.
Yeah, I was just playing a little catch-up on all the stuff. Most of them I just forgot to say earlier, but along the clothing line, they didn't have any problems telling anybody to take their shirt off or anything, but they had all this technology and all this firepower and these thermal scanners and stuff, but it seemed like maybe a simpler way to go at this was just to say, okay, from this point forward until we figure out these alien manta rays, no one can wear a shirt again. So maybe they just, I don't know, it seemed like if you're going to go with a bad plot, you could just do that, and that would be cheap and easy to do. Another thing, since we brought up, a couple people have brought up the spaceship prop, you know, they were talking about these people being farmers or whatever out here. Where did they get all that shiny, brand new corrugated sheet metal? I can tell you, I grew up building some sheds and barns and fences and things out of corrugated metal, and I never saw a brand new sheet in my life. Still haven't, I don't think, until I saw this movie tonight. And then just a comment about the aliens' antennas. You know, since the plot was a little weak and I was adding in my own fills to the plot there, I was wondering if maybe the aliens found the humans and got here to Earth because somebody had walked off and left their FT8 running fully automatic and their antennas had picked that up. KG5 WGH.
Nick, perfect comments. Yes, corrugated steel. It's the best thing since sliced aliens. Okay, I agree. W5EBB, David, your comments. Go ahead.
Well, I'll admit I didn't think the movie moved all that slowly because I skipped about the last quarter of it and just looked at the pictures. But someone said that you know, the Donald Sutherland character toward the end kind of had more of an appreciation of you know, the human feelings, and you know, maybe it was because even as the alien, he was detached from his mind. He was gone, and he was the last one left. And at that point, he could perceive and understand the human after detaching and separating from the hive to think on its own. One other thing, you can't just ask somebody if they're a host. Of course, if they are, they're going to tell you no and then run. But one giveaway is anyone with a net worth greater than $100 million, definitely a host. W5EBB.
My, well, yeah, they're probably all on the take. Let's see, WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, your comments.
Well, I want to make a quick comment about the special effects of the aliens. I was trying to eat at one point when these things are oozing everywhere, and I really had to look away. That was overkill in terms of special effects. Don't know if it's true, but I heard a long time ago that Heinlein was so put off by his experience with Hollywood in Destination Moon that he swore he'd never make another movie. And for decades, we all said, why don't they make a movie of this? It's such a good book. And they never did until after he died. In 1988, his widow set up she set up the trust, the Heinlein Prize Trust, and they own all the rights to virtually all of Heinlein's works. And so, of course, they're making a lot of money at it, but they give away the Heinlein Prize. They give as much as $500,000 every year. But in 2011, Elon Musk got it. I know he could use the money, and Jeff Bezos got it in 2016. And so this is great scholarships for these needy guys. It's to reward individuals who make contributions to space travel, or, space. So anyway, I think this movie followed the book pretty well, best as I can recall. And Starship Troopers, I love that movie, but as far as being like the book, it's an abomination, almost an embarrassment. So I kind of wonder who's making these decisions now as to how much you can do with the original story. And I have read that in 2015, Bryan Singer was appointed to direct a movie based on the movie's Harsh Mistress. They have not been able to find any follow-up whether they're actually making the movie or not. So it would be a good one if they would, but I like for them to stay pretty close to the story as much as possible, because otherwise you get something like Starship Troopers. All right, that is all I have, and so I will say goodnight. WV5OZL.
Very good, Miss Brenda. And yeah, I'm starting to fade myself. Any final comments before we close it out? Please come now.
KG5ZNJ, one comment. This movie made me realize just how bland and ugly the cars were in the late 80s and early 90s. That's it, KG5ZNJ.
Okay, Frank. Oh, man, I couldn't agree with you more. And that's one of the things that I remember from this film. I'm glad you mentioned it because I hadn't thought about. When I was watching it, I noticed that they were. Yes, I agree with you. Terrible automobiles. So I'm with you on that one. Get down on it. And now we got better, sexier cars. In any case. All right. I'm going to go ahead and call it now because I think everybody's kind of like falling asleep. It is after midnight. This is KE5ICX. Next week, we're going to be watching at Flagpole Hill, Little Shop of Horrors. This is the musical. Our first musical. It is our first musical. We've been doing this now for over 2 years. This will be the first musical we've watched. Based on, I think, the 1964 film. I don't have that pulled up right now, but I think it was 1964 with Jack Nicholson. This one is a comedy with tons of people you know, mostly from Saturday Night Live or from Second City TV, if you can go back that far. So we'll be doing that at 10:30 rather than a net. I'll go ahead and post a link if it is available. I have not checked this to see if it's there. if there is a link available that is available and safe for you to watch on YouTube or something like that, I'll put it up. Otherwise, you're going to have to find it on your own. So this is KE5ICX. Let's see, tonight we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 people, including myself, who checked in. Not bad for 10:30 at night until midnight. And say 7-3 to everybody. Thanks for participating. I enjoyed it. I have 3 pages of notes. It's like a film class in college where we all get to talk about stuff. And very enjoyable. And I always have a blast with this thing. So 7-3 everybody. Till next time, don't get infiltrated by a host. This is KE5ICX signing off. Bye-bye. Bye, Bonds.